the Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. Chapter 97. Hatred, Part 1. Bringing Wen Ning with him, Wei Wuxian dashed straight towards the Guanyin Temple inside the city. During the day, he and Lan Wangji had already searched the area. They'd originally planned to examine the place more carefully and break the array in the temple to see which creature was sealed there, whether it'd help in dealing with Jin Guangyao or not. However, he slept all the way until 7 in the evening, and that kind of thing happened afterwards. Naturally, the plan fell through. Currently, Wei Wuxian felt discontent in every way possible, which was why he came to search for trouble with Jin Guangyao in the middle of the night. All was quiet. The household lights had already been blown out, and the doors of the Guanyin Temple were shut tightly as well. From outside of the tall walls, the courtyard seemed to be pitch black, but as Wei Wuxian leapt up the wall, before he even reached the roof, he suddenly paused. Something's wrong. Wen Ning froze as well, whispering, "There's a barrier." Wei Wuxian gestured with his hand. The two landed soundlessly and left the main entrance. They went to a corner on the other side of the Guanyin Temple and carefully climbed up. After hiding behind a rooftop gargoyle statue, they finally peeked into the courtyard. And both of the two gaped in shock. Inside the Guanyin Temple was full of both people and candlelight. Half were monks, and the other half were cultivators wearing robes of sparks amidst snow. The two groups stood mixed, all of people carrying bows and arrows on their backs and swords in their hands as if they were guarding something, ready to fight at any moment. Once in a while there would be whispers. But due to the special camouflaging barriers that had been set up on all four sides of the Guanyin Temple, from the streets outside the walls, all seemed to be dark and silent inside. None of the sounds and lights leaked out. But what gave Wei Wuxian the shock wasn't the barrier. It wasn't the cultivators and fake monks either. Instead, it was the white-robed person standing in the center of the courtyard. Lan Zichen. Lan Zichen wasn't restrained by anything. Even his sword and his zhou, libing, were worn at his waist. He stood amid the crowd so gently, and these monks and cultivator regarded him with respect as well, even answering all of his requests. Wei Wuxian observed for a while before turning to Wen Ning, his voice low, "Go back to the inn immediately. Bring Han Guangjun here as fast as possible." Wen Ning nodded and disappeared. Wei Wuxian didn't see Jin Guangyao. He didn't know if he was here or if he had the tiger seal in his hand. After some thought, he bit his finger and moved his bleeding fingertip towards the spirit-locking pouch at his waist. He wanted to use the few small ghosts to quietly summon a couple of dark creatures for him. Yet, at this point, a string of barks came from an end of the street outside the Guanyin Temple. Wei Wuxian immediately felt his soul fly away. Almost petrified, he held back the urge to get the hell out of there, trembling as he hugged the sculpture on the roof tightly. Listening as the barks moved closer and closer, his chest was filled with fear, involuntarily chanting as his heart, "Help me, Lanzon, Lanzon, help me." After this, it seemed as if he got some courage from the name, and so he kept on trembling as he forced himself to calm down. Wei Wuxian prayed with all he had that the dog was a wild one without an owner so that it'd get lost as soon as possible. But fate clearly wasn't on his side. Amid the barks sounded the clear voice of a young man, who scolded, "Fairy, shut up. Do you want to wake up everyone living on this street in the middle of the night?" Jinling. Lan Zichen's expression changed. Most of the Lanling Jin sex cultivators knew their young master's voice. They exchanged a look with one another and knocked arrows on their bows. Jinling's voice came rather quickly. It arrived at the doors of the Guanyin Temple soon afterwards. "SHH. SHH. I'll cook you if you keep on barking. Just where do you want me to go?" Wei Wuxian's heart clenched among the terrors of all sorts. "Jinling, you unfortunate thing. Quick, get out of here." But Jinling had to stop right outside the Guanyin Temple. Fairy barked again and again, as though it was spinning around, digging at the dirt in the wall. Jinling mused, "This is it?" After some silence, he knocked, "Is anyone here?" Amid the courtyard, All of the cultivators held their breaths. Resting on the bows, the arrows pointed towards the direction of the doors, waiting for orders. Lan Zichen lowered his voice, "Do not hurt him." His voice couldn't go through the barrier around the Guanyin temple. The other people didn't relax or put down their bows either. It seemed like Jinling noticed that something was wrong as well. Even if there was no one on night watch, he'd been slamming the door so hard that he should be able to wake up anyone who was asleep. No matter what, it shouldn't be as quiet as this. And so, still outside the door, he stopped saying anything. Before Wei Wuxian even had the chance to feel relieved, dog barks suddenly came from outside the walls again. Jinling fumed, "Hey, why are you running back?" Wei Wuxian beamed, "Good fairy." Jinling, "Fairy. Come back. Fuck." Wei Wuxian, "Kid, please disappear with it as soon as you can. I'm begging you." However, just a moment later, Wei Wuxian heard the almost unnoticeable sound of dust and crumbs falling onto the ground. He didn't know what the noise was at first, but a split second later, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Oh no, the brat's climbing the wall. On the other hand, Jinling saw an entire courtyard of arrows aimed at him as soon as he arrived. His pupils shrank. One of the monks had probably never seen Jinling before, or perhaps he had the determination to kill off any intruders. He let go, and an arrow shot towards the direction of Jinling. As soon as he heard the sharp whistle, Wei Wuxian knew that the archer was a skilled one. If Jinling were to be shot, his chest would be pierced through for sure. There was only one thing he could use to block it right now. Under the emergency, Wei Wuxian leapt up the wall and casted something out, at the same time shouting, "Run, Jinling!" What he flung out was the bamboo flute he'd been carrying with him ever since he was reborn. It blocked the brutal attack, and the arrow's aim was off. The flute burst into pieces as well. Jinling's figure disappeared at the end of the wall. He should have run away already. But because of this, Wei Wuxian's hiding spot was revealed. Hundreds of arrows flew at the speed of a rainstorm, shooting the sculpture Wei Wuxian hid himself behind into a porcupine. Wei Wuxian commented on the close call in silence. None of these people were bad at archery. Their cultivation must be high as well. It was still unknown if Jinling would be able to run away successfully. He hopped down the wall. As he formed a circle with his fingers, about to whistle, a smiling voice suddenly sounded behind his back. "I think it's best if young Master Wei stops right there. It's nothing if your flute's broken, but if your tongue or your fingers went missing, it'd be such a shame." Wei Wuxian immediately put his hand away, agreeing, "You make so much sense." The person, "May I request your company?" Wei Wuxian nodded, "You're too polite, sect leader Jin." Jin Guangyao smiled, "It's my pleasure." As if nothing was wrong, they walked a big circle all the way up to the main entrance of the Guanyin temple. Wei Wuxian was speechless. The doors of the Guanyin temple were wide open already. As expected, Jinling wasn't able to run away. With a few monks pointing their swords at him, Jinling looked at them, and was still the first to say something, although after some hesitation, "Uncle." Jin Guangyao, "Hello, Ailing." In Chapter The Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. Chapter 98. Hatred, Part 2. Jinling stole a glance at Wei Wuxian again. No dogs were with him, and Wei Wuxian was finally able to get a hold of himself. He felt like he had a headache. "You kid. It's so late. Why did you come here with your dog?" But he didn't know that after Lan Wangji, Wen Ning, and he departed from Lotus Pier, Jinling secretly went to find him. Realizing he was gone, he threw a tantrum at his uncle who ran madly around, making people unsheathe their swords. He criticized that Wei Wuxian ran away all because of him, and Zhang Cheng slammed him on the ground right after. And so, Jinling decided that he might as well do everything, taking Fairy to trace Wei Wuxian's tracks. Fairy didn't disappoint, arriving with accuracy at the Guanyin temple by following Wei Wuxian's scent. However, when Jinling was knocking, Fairy sensed the killing intent hidden behind the doors and suddenly turned around, biting his owner's clothes and barking to alarm him. Unfortunately, something seemed odd about this Guanyin temple. Even if Wei Wuxian wasn't inside, Jinling felt he had to find out what it was. In the end, he still fell into the hands of the enemy. Of course, Jinling wouldn't speak the truth. He only snorted. Along with a few people, Jin Guangyao stepped into the temple. Right before the doors closed, he turned to his subordinates, "Where's the dog?" A monk replied, "The dog was wild. It bit anyone in its path. I was unable to subdue it, and it ran off." Jin Guangyao, "Find it and kill it. The dog's quite bright. It wouldn't do us well if it led someone over." "Yes." The monk left with his sword, and the doors finally closed. Jinling was more than astonished, blurting, "You're really gonna kill it? You were the one who gave me fairy." Jin Guangyao asked instead, "Ailing, what are you doing here?" Jinling glanced at Wei Wuxian, unsure of how to respond. Suddenly, Lan Zichen spoke up, "Sect leader Jinling is still a child." Jin Guangyao turned to him, "I know. Lan Zichen, he is your nephew as well." Jin Guangyao broke into a smile, "Brother, what are you thinking? Of course, I know Jinling's not only a child but my nephew as well. What did you think I'd do? Silence him by murder?" Lan Zichen didn't say anything. Jin Guangyao shook his head, turning to Jinling, "Ailing, you heard him. If you make a ruckus, perhaps I'd do some scary things to you. Do as you see fit, please." Jinling had always had a good relationship with this uncle of his. In the past, Jin Guangyao doted on him quite a lot. Right now, he appeared to be as nice as always, but with the way things were, Jinling found it difficult to view him in the same light as before. Quietly, he walked towards Wei Wuxian and Lan Zichen, looking quite obedient. Jin Guangyao turned around, "They still haven't dug it up yet? Tell the people inside to hurry up." One of the monks answered, "Yes." With a sword, he rushed into the Guanyin palace. Wei Wuxian finally noticed that from the main palace came the sound of earth and stone being shuffled, as though many people were trying to dig something out. He thought, "What's he digging? A tunnel? The tiger seal? The thing that's sealed here?" Jin Guangyao, "Speaking of it, there's something I haven't asked yet, Mr. Wei, how do you know this place? Please don't tell me you and Han Guangjun just so happen to have arrived here on your vacation." Wei Wuxian, "Lianfeng's son, you hid quite a big land deed in the secret chamber of Fragrant Palace, right beside my manuscripts. Don't you remember?" Jin Guangyao, "Oh, that would be my fault. I should have put them separately." Wei Wuxian, "Right now, we won't be able to run from your grasp no matter what. So could you perhaps tell me just what a creature is being suppressed in this Guanyin temple, Lianfeng's son, and quench my curiosity a bit?" Jin Guangyao smiled, "Quenching your curiosity doesn't come at a low price. Young Master Wei, are you sure you'd like to try?" Wei Wuxian, "Oh. On second thought, then, never mind." At this point, Lan Zichen walked towards him. Wei Wuxian finally noticed that although the sword at Lan Zichen's waist was an inch unsheathed, no light was shining. He asked, "Zi Wujun, what's with this?" Lan Zichen, "It was quite a shame. I was fooled by lies and lost my spiritual powers. Even though I carry Shu Ou and Li Bing, they will not be of much help." Wei Wuxian, "No need to feel ashamed. After all, lying is one of Lian Fengzan's greatest skills." Remembering the empathy scene where Ming Yao feigned suicide to stab Nie Mingju behind the back as well as the news that Lian Fengzan was heavily injured, he didn't find it too hard to deduce how Lan Zichen lost his spiritual powers. Jin Guangyao ordered the monks, "Lay out an array. When Han Guangjun comes later, stop him as long as you can." Wei Wuxian, "How are you so sure that Han Guangjun would come?" He was still rapidly thinking whether or not he should lie and lower Jin Guangyao's guard when Jin Guangyao smiled, as though he knew what he was thinking. "Of course he'd come. Since you were suspicious of this Guanyin temple, young Master Wei, of course Han Guangjun would know of the peculiarities here as well. young Master Wei, don't tell me you think I'd believe you if you said he didn't come with you. Wei Wuxian, bravo. Lan Zichen, young Master Wei, if Wang Ji is around, why is he not with you? Wei Wuxian, we're acting separately. Lan Zichen, however, paused in surprise. I heard you injured yourself when you left burial mound. Why would he act separately with you at such a time? Wei Wuxian, who did you hear it from? Jin Guangyao, I told him. Wei Wuxian glanced at him before turning to Lan Zichen. It's like this. I couldn't sleep tonight and took a stroll outside the inn. I only came here accidentally. Han Guangjun's in another room. He doesn't know I went out. Jin Guangyao found this strange. You two got 2 rooms? Wei Wuxian, who told you we'd definitely get 1 room? Jin Guangyao smiled, but said nothing. Wei Wuxian, oh, I know. Lan Zichen told him. Wei Wuxian, you two really do talk about anything and everything. However, there was no joking tone in Lan Zichen's voice. Young Master Wei, did something happen between you two? Without the genial smile on his face, he looked even more like Lan Wangji with such a serious expression. Wei Wuxian couldn't understand why his reaction was so big. He felt guilty in the first place. Sect leader Lan, what could have happened between us? As of the moment, let's turn our attention to dealing with this one. He gestured to Jin Guangyao with his eyes. With a reminder, Lan Zichen replied, I was too impatient. My apologies. Yet, Jin Guangyao smiled, so it seems that a problem indeed happened. And not a small problem, at that. Wei Wuxian returned a cold smile. Right now, the entire cultivation world is about to crusade against you, Lianfeng's son, and you're still sitting back, aren't you? Still got the spare time to worry about others? Aren't you a chatty one? Jin Guangyao, of course not. I just had to comment. Han Guangjun spent so many years in yearning, and even today he hasn't gotten his happy ending yet. Not only does sect leader Lin have a good reason to feel impatient, even an outsider can't bear watching it. Wei Wuxian whirled around, what yearning? What happy ending? Hearing this, both Jin Guangyao and Lan Zichen seemed surprised. They examined his expression carefully, as though trying to see if he was purposely pretending to be oblivious. Wei Wuxian's heart suddenly began to pound, like something that had been dead for more than half the night suddenly bursted alive in his chest again. He forced himself to be calm. What do you mean? Jin Guangyao, young Master Wei, do you really don't understand what I mean? No matter what, if Han Guangjun heard this, it would be a little hurtful, wouldn't it? Wei Wuxian, I really don't understand. Just say it out loud. Lan Zichen was shocked. Young Master Wei, could it be that even after you spent such a long time together with Wang Ji, you still do not know of his feelings? Wei Wuxian grabbed him at once, about to kneel on the ground and beg him to explain everything in one go. Sect leader Lan, what feelings do you mean by Lan Zan's feelings? Is it? Lan Zichen forcefully drew his hand away, speaking in disbelief. So you really know nothing. But have you forgotten how he received those whip scars? Have you not seen the brand mark at his chest? Wei Wuxian, whip scars? He grabbed Lan Zichen again. Sect leader Lan, I really don't know. Please tell me, just how did he get those injuries? How could they possibly be related to me? Anger could be seen on Lan Zichen's face. If it were not related to you, could he have done those to himself without a reason? Zi Wujun had always been an extremely patient person, but now that Lan Wangji was involved, he was truly angered. But after he scrutinized Wei Wuxian's expression, he suppressed some of his anger, trying, your memory is damaged. Wei Wuxian, my memory? He immediately tried as hard as he could to think of things that he'd forgotten. I don't remember my memory being. Yes. There was indeed a portion of his memories that was blurry. The massacre of the Nightless City. On the night back then, he thought Wen King and Wen Ning had already been turned to dust. He watched the cultivational world charge so passionately at him, He even saw Zhang Yanli die before him with his own eyes. In the end, he lost control and put the tiger seal together, letting it succumb to slaughter. Those killed by the corpses under the seal's command became new corpses, creating an endless flow of killing puppets to build the hell of blood. Afterwards, even though Wei Wuxian could manage to support himself and remain standing, amidst the blur, he felt himself leave the slaughterhouse of a city. He was unconscious for a long time, and when he woke up again, he'd been sitting at the bottom of Yiling's burial mound for quite long. Lan Zichen, do you remember now? Wei Wuxian murmured, the time at Nightless City? I've always thought I somehow walked back on my own. Could it be? Lan Zichen almost laughed out of the rage. Young Master Wei. On the night at Nightless City, what faced you was how many people? 3,000. No matter what a prodigy you were, to be able to escape unscathed in those circumstances? Absolutely impossible. Wei Wuxian, what? What did Lan Zan do? Lan Zichen, what Wang Ji did, if you do not remember, I am afraid he would never tell you in this life, and you would never ask either. Fine, then. Let me be the one to say it. He continued, young Master Wei, in that night, you took the two halves of the Stygian tiger seal and pieced them together. After you were satisfied with the killing, you were a spent arrow as well. Wang Ji was injured on your rampage. He was in no better shape than you, barely supporting himself by leaning on Baikan. In spite of this, as he saw you stumble away, he immediately followed. Right then, not many people were still conscious. I, too, was almost unable to move, and I could only watch as Wang Ji, whose spiritual powers were clearly about to be drained, staggered towards you. He brought you into Baikan as soon as he grabbed you, and you two left. 4 hours later, my spiritual powers, having finally been restored, I hurried back to the Gusulan sect in search for assistance. I was worried that if those from another sect found you first, Wang Ji would be considered your accomplice. The best scenario was his name being forever tainted, and the worst his life being taken away right then. Thus, along with Uncle, we chose 33 seniors who had always thought highly of Wang Ji and searched for 2 days on our swords in secrecy. Only then did we find signs of you two within the Yiling region. Wang Ji hid you in a cave. When we arrived, you sat blankly on a rock within the cave. Holding your hand, Wang Ji was giving you spiritual energy. He kept on whispering to you. But throughout the whole time, you repeated the same 2 words at him. Get lost. Wei Wuxian's throat was dry. His eyes were red as well. He couldn't say a single thing. Lan Zichen continued, my uncle suddenly appeared before him and scolded him, asking for him to explain things. As if he knew all along he would be discovered by us, he said that there was nothing to explain, that this was it. Growing up, he had never talked back to Uncle and me even once. But for you, not only did Wang Ji talk back to him, he even met with his sword the cultivators from the Gusulan sect. He heavily injured all 33 of the seniors we asked to come. Wei Wuxian dug his hands into his hair, I didn't know. I really. Apart from repeating how he didn't know, he wasn't able to say anything else. Lan Zichen restrained himself for a moment, yet still continued, 33 whip scars. He was punished in one go, once for each person. You should know how much it hurts when it lands on your body, for how long you have to rest to recover. After he went out of his way to send you back to burial mound and returned in such low spirits to receive his punishment, how long he kneeled before the wall of rules. I told him when I went to see him, young Master Wei had already made a grave mistake, there was no use augmenting it. But he said that he could not say with certainty whether what you did was right or wrong, but no matter what, he was willing to be responsible for all of the consequences alongside you. They say those years were him reflecting on his mistakes, but in reality he was entirely bedridden. Even so, when he knew of your passing away, he still dragged such a body to burial mound to take one last look, no matter what. With the ways in which he looked and talked to you when he saved you and hid you in that cave, even someone who was blind or deaf could perceive his feelings, which was why my uncle was in such anger. Wang Ji was a model for the disciples when he was young, and a prominent cultivator when he grew up. In his whole life he had been honest and righteous and immaculate. You were the only mistake he made. And you say you do not know. Young Master Wei, after you returned in your body, how did you pester him and confess to him? Every night. Every night, you had to. And you say you do not know? If you did not know, why did you do such things? Wei Wuxian really wanted to go back to all those times and kill himself. It was precisely because he didn't know that he dared do such things. He suddenly felt terrified. If Lan Wangji didn't know that he couldn't at all recall what happened in the few days after the massacre at Nightless City, if Lan Wangji thought that he knew about his feelings all along, just how horrible were the things he did after he came back? At first, he did those shameful, theatrical things in order to make Lan Wangji feel disgust and throw him out of the cloud recesses so that they wouldn't meet each other again, going their separate ways. Lan Wangji wouldn't have failed to see what his real attitude was. But even when this was the case, he still chose to keep him by his side, refusing to give Zhongqing the chance to approach and make things difficult for him. He answered all questions, granted all requests, indulged him and forgave him again and again. Even when faced with Wei Wuxian's myriad of almost cruel teasing, he was still able to hold himself from crossing the line. Then, back at the inn, when he pushed him away so suddenly, was it also because he thought it was another instance of spur-of-the-moment presumption? Wei Wuxian really couldn't keep on thinking any longer. He rushed towards the Guanyin temple stores, and cultivators immediately stopped him. Jin Guangyao, young Master Wei, I do understand your current excitement. Right now, all Wei Wuxian wanted to do was to rush back to the inn, rush to Lan Wangji's side, and tell him his feelings no matter how much he rambled. With one strike, he sent 2 monks who tried to stop him flying away, roaring, "You understand my ass!" After the strike, the 7 or 8 people all threw themselves over. Wei Wuxian immediately felt his view darken. On the other side, Jin Guangyao was intent on finishing his words. I only wanted to tell you, there's no need to be in such a hurry. Your Han Guangjun, he's already here. An icy blue sword glare shot from the sky, whistling as it forced back the silhouettes who encircled Wei Wuxian before returning to someone's hand. Lan Wangji landed before the Guanyin temple soundlessly and glanced at him, his expression no different from usual. But with nervousness, Wei Wuxian felt all of the things he wanted to say crumple up inside of his stomach. His abdomen cramped. He could only murmur, "Lanzan." Right before, Jinling was shocked speechless by Lan Zichen's words. Seeing that Lan Wangji was here, he was ecstatic at first, but his expression immediately twisted as he saw how Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian looked at each other. Jin Guangyao sighed, "You see? That's what I said. If you're here, young Master Wei, Han Guangjun would definitely come as well." Lan Wangji turned the wrist of the hand with which he held Baiken. Just as he was about to move, Jin Guangyao smiled, "Han Guangjun, it's best if you take 5 steps back." Wei Wuxian suddenly felt a small, sharp sting come from his neck. Lan Zichen lowered his voice, "Be careful. Do not move." Lan Wangji's gaze landed on Wei Wuxian's neck. His face paled slightly. An almost unnoticeable Giccan string, light and golden, was tied around Wei Wuxian's neck. In Chapter The Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. Chapter 99. Hatred, Part 3. The Giccan string was extremely thin. It was covered in special paint as well, making it almost unseeable by the eye. Along with how disoriented Wei Wuxian was, unable to pay attention to anything else, he didn't notice it when it trapped around the vital region. Wei Wuxian, Lanzan, don't back away. But Lan Wangji immediately walked 5 steps back without any hesitation. Jin Guangyao, wonderful. Now, please unsheath Baiken. With a clank, Lan Wangji obeyed again. Wei Wuxian raged, don't ask for too much. Jin Guangyao, this is already asking for too much? Next, I'm even going to ask Han Guangjun to seal away his spiritual powers. What would that be called? Wei Wuxian seethed, you. Before he could finish, the sharp pain of flesh being lacerated came from his throat. Something dripped down his neck. Lan Wangji's face was pale. Jin Guangyao, how could he not listen to me? Just think about it, young Master Wei, his life is in my hands. Lan Wangji spoke a word at a time, do not touch him. Jin Guangyao, then you know what to do, Han Guangjun. A moment later, Lan Wangji responded, yes. Lan Zichen sighed. Lan Wangji raised his hands. With 2 strong taps, he locked his own spiritual powers. Jin Guangyao smiled, his voice soft, this really is. Lan Wangji's eyes were locked on them, let him go. Wei Wuxian, however, stopped him, Lan-san. I have to tell you something. Jin Guangyao, let's save it for later. Wei Wuxian, no. It's really urgent. Jin Guangyao, then you can also say it right now. It was only an offhand comment, but Wei Wuxian seemed as if he realized something, you're right. Right after, Wei Wuxian shouted with all he could, Lan-san. Lan Wangji. Han Guangjun. Back then, I really wanted to sleep with you. Jin Guangyao's hands loosened, and the string fell. As soon as he felt the stinging at his neck disappear, Wei Wuxian threw himself at Lan Wangji, unable to wait a second longer. The shocking confession just now struck Lan Wangji with such force that he still hadn't finished processing it. A few rare streaks of loss and confusion appeared on his normally calm face. It wasn't the first time Wei Wuxian hugged him as if he was clinging on for dear life, but this time, it was as though Lan Wangji's body had turned into a heavy log. He froze so much that he didn't even know where to put his hands. Wei Wuxian, Lan-san, did you hear what I said? Lan Wangji's lips moved. A moment later, he spoke, you. He'd always been concise and comprehensive with his words, never pausing at all. But right now, he paused with more hesitance than ever. Another moment later, he continued, you said. He seemed as if he wanted to repeat it to make sure he didn't hear it wrong. But to Lan Wangji, those words were indeed too hard to say. Immediately, Wei Wuxian decided to say it again, I said I really wanted to. Ahem. Standing on the side, Lan Zichen clenched his right hand into a fist and put it to his lips. After some thought, he sighed, young Master Wei, it certainly isn't the best time and place to say such words. Wei Wuxian apologized without any sincerity, I'm really sorry, sect leader Lan, but I really couldn't wait a second longer. Jin Guangyao also seemed like he couldn't wait a second longer. He turned around, have you still not dug it out yet? One of the monks responded, sect leader, you buried it too deep back then. Jin Guangyao's expression twisted, his face pale. Even despite this, he didn't scold his subordinate, hurry up. Before he finished, a white streak of lightning climbed across the sky. A moment later, thunder boomed. Jin Guangyao gazed at the sky, his face dark. Soon, thin strands of rain fluttered in the sky. Wei Wuxian clung to Lan Wangji. He was still trying to let the endless words burst from his chest when the cold rain blew onto his face, calming him down. Jin Guangyao turned to Lan Zichen, Ziwu Jun, it's raining. Let's take shelter in the temple. Even if Lan Zichen was already under his control, he still faced Lan Zichen with complete courtesy, not treating him with the slightest bit of harshness. He didn't seem any different from before except for being especially polite. It was hard to vent off to him even if one was angry. After all, one couldn't slap a smiling face, much less someone like Lan Zichen who didn't get angry much to begin with. Jin Guangyao stepped over the threshold first and entered the main palace. The rest of the group followed. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji had already come inside once during the day. The inside of the building was quite wide and grand. The red walls and the golden lacquer were all good as new. It was clear that people often cleaned the place. The monks and cultivators were digging at the back of the palace. However deep they dug already, they still hadn't dug up what Zhen Guangyao buried. Wei Wuxian looked up unintentionally, and was immediately surprised. The Guanyin statue atop the altar had beautiful features. Compared to the usual Guanyin statues, this one had less kindness and more grace. What made him somewhat surprised was that the Guanyin temple seemed a bit familiar, like someone he knew. Wasn't it Zhen Guangyao, who was standing right there? It wasn't so stark at first glance, but when compared to Zhen Guangyao, the two seemed more and more alike. Wei Wuxian thought, is Zhen Guangyao really such a self-obsessed person? It wasn't enough to be the chief cultivator of the entire world, he even had to carve a heavenly statue in his appearance to receive the worship of tens of thousands of people? Or is this some sort of dark cultivation technique that I don't know about? Lan Wangji's voice suddenly rang beside his ears, sit. Wei Wuxian's thoughts immediately returned. Lan Wangji gathered 4 cushions from the temple, giving 2 to Lan Ziqin and Jinling and 2 to Wei Wuxian and him. But for some reason, both Lan Ziqin and Jinling moved their cushions quite far away from them. And coincidentally, they gazed into the distance in unison. Zhen Guangyao and the rest had already gone behind the palace to inspect how the digging was going. Tugging Lan Wangji, Wei Wuxian sat down on the cushion. Perhaps because his mind was far off, Lan Wangji's figure wobbled from the tug before sitting down properly. Wei Wuxian calmed himself a bit before gazing at Lan Wangji's face. His eyes looked down. Not many emotions could be seen. Wei Wuxian knew that with just those words, Lan Wangji probably couldn't believe him yet. He was tortured by a smiling, oblivious person who knew nothing of his crimes. It was only natural that he didn't believe it. After he thought so, Wei Wuxian felt his chest go heavy. His heart hurt so much it shivered. He didn't dare think of it any longer, but he knew that he should increase the dose. He spoke, Lan Zan, look at me. His voice was still a bit tight. Lan Wangji, Amen. After a deep breath, Wei Wuxian whispered, I really do have a bad memory. I can't remember a lot of the things that happened in the past, including the time at the Nightless City. I don't remember a single bit of what happened during those days. Hearing this, Lan Wangji's eyes widened slightly. Wei Wuxian suddenly reached out and grabbed his shoulders, continuing, But, from now on, what you say to me, what you do for me, I'll remember all of them, I won't forget a single thing. Wei Wuxian, you're really great. I like you. Or in other words, I fancy you, I love you, I want you, I can't leave you, I whatever you. I want to night hunt with you for the rest of my life. Wei Wuxian put 3 fingers together, pointing at the sky, the earth, and finally his heart, and I want to sleep with you every day. I swear it's not the heat of the moment or joking around like I've done in the past. I'm not doing it out of gratitude either. Anyways, it's not because of anything else. I really just like you so much I want to sleep with you. I don't want anyone but you. It can't be anyone but you. You can do anything you want to me, however you like it. I'll accept everything, as long as you're willing to. Before he even finished, a gust of wind suddenly surged inside, putting out the rows of candles within the Guanyin temple. Without anyone noticing, the sprinkle had become a storm. The colliding lanterns outside the temple had already been dampened by the rainwater as well. Their surroundings suddenly sunk into darkness. Wei Wuxian couldn't let out another sound. Amidst the darkness, Lan Wangji had already embraced him tightly, stopping him with his lips. Lan Wangji's breaths were short and disordered. His hoarse voice whispered beside Wei Wuxian's ear, fancy you. Wei Wuxian hugged him tight, yes. Lan Wangji, love you, want you. Wei Wuxian raised his voice, yes. Lan Wangji, cannot leave you. Do not want anyone but you. It cannot be anyone but you. He repeated over and over again the words Wei Wuxian said to him, his voice and his body trembling at the same time. Wei Wuxian was almost under the illusion that he was about to cry. After every sentence, the arm he wrapped around Wei Wuxian's waist tightened. Wei Wuxian hurt from the embrace, but the arms he wrapped around Lan Wangji's back tightened as well, almost making him unable to breathe. But still, he savored every moment as he wished to hug him even tighter. He couldn't see anything, but their chests were right against each other's. The two hearts couldn't hide at all. Wei Wuxian felt it with clarity, Lan Wangji's throbbing heart, the heat that was about to break out of that chest, and something that landed at his neck before disappearing soundlessly, something that might have resembled a tear. At this point, a series of quickened footsteps entered the main palace. Jin Guangyao, who had gone behind the palace to check on the situation with a few cultivators, returned again. Facing the strong wind, two monks stood each on one side, finally managing to shut and bolt the temple's doors after exerting all their strength. Jin Guangyao fished out a fire talisman. After a light blow, the talisman ignited, and he used it to light up the red candles again. The dim, yellow flames were the only source of light in this lone temple amidst the night train. Suddenly, two crisp knocks came from outside the door. Hearing that someone was knocking, all of the people within the temple perked up their ears, looking at the entrance. The two monks who closed the doors seemed as though they faced a great threat. Soundlessly, they pointed their swords towards the doors. Jin Guangyao's expression didn't change at all. Who is it? The person outside, sect leader, it's me. It was Zǔ Shī's voice. Jin Guangyao gestured, and the two monks took off the bolt. Zǔ Shī entered along with a roaring storm. Affected by the wind and rain, the row of candles fluttered and flickered. The two monks immediately shut the doors again. Zǔ Shī was drenched by the storm. His face was cold, and his lips were frozen to become a shade of purple. In his right hand he held his sword, and in his left a person. After he entered, he was just about to throw the person down when he saw Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji on two cushions by the side, still stuck together and refusing to part. Zǔ Shī had just suffered quite some losses from these two. His expression changed, and he immediately unsheathed his sword, glancing at Jin Guangyao. Seeing how he looked like nothing was wrong, Zǔ Shī knew that these two were definitely under control already. He finally calmed down. Jin Guangyao, what's wrong? Zǔ Shī, I met him on my way here. I thought he might be useful, so I caught him. Jin Guangyao approached and looked down. Did you hurt him? Zǔ Shī, no. He was scared and passed out. As he spoke, he tossed the person onto the ground. Jin Guangyao, Min Shan, don't be so rough with him. He can't take scares and falling down. Zǔ Shī hurried, yes. He then picked up the person whom he threw around and carefully placed them beside Lan Zichen. Lan Zichen had been staring at the person. He pushed aside their wet, messy hair and looked. The person who had been scared unconscious was indeed Nie Huaisang. He'd probably been caught by Zǔ Shī after he finished resting at Lotus Pier, on his way back to King. He looked up, why did you seize Huaisang? Jin Guangyao, with another sect leader here, the others would be to some extent more careful anyways. But brother, please don't worry. You know how I've always been towards Huaisang. When the time comes, I'll definitely let you two leave without harm. Lan Zichen's voice sounded indifferent. Should I believe you? Jin Guangyao, it's your choice. Whether you believe me or not, brother, you can't do anything about it, can you? At this point, Zǔ Shī threw his cool gaze towards Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji. He snickered, Han Guangjun, Patriarch Yiling, who would have thought we'd meet so soon? And the tables have completely been turned. So how does it feel? Lan Wangji didn't say anything. He never paid attention to such meaningless provocations. Wei Wuxian thought to himself, how have the tables been turned? You were running away defeated back on Burial Mound, but aren't you also running away defeated right now? Perhaps Zǔ Shī had been holding it back for too many years. He'd keep on rambling all on his own even without anyone provoking him. He examined Lan Wangji from top to bottom and mocked, things are already like this, and you're still holding up the front you think looks so calm and collected. How long do you want to keep it up for? Lan Wangji was still silent. Lan Zichen, however, spoke up, Sect Leader Su, When you were studying in the Gusulan sect, I believe we never treated you badly. Why do you attack Wang Ji like this? Zǔ Shī, how dare I attack second young Master Lan, who's been so talented ever since he was young. I just can't bear looking at how he always thinks he's such a big deal. Although it wasn't the only time Wei Wuxian knew that hatred could come without a reason, he still couldn't help but be baffled. Has Han Guangjun never said he thinks he's a big deal? If I remember correctly, isn't arrogance is forbidden part of the Gusulan sect's rules? Jinling, why do you know what's part of the Gusulan sect's rules? Wei Wuxian touched his chin. I've copied them too many times, you know? Jinling blurted, why would you copy the Gusulan sect's rules? It's not like you're. He wanted to say it's not like you're from his sect, but before he could finish, he felt where the oddness was. He stopped talking, his face darkening. Wei Wuxian grinned, is it because Han Guangjun's had such an icy face ever since he was young, sect leader Su, that you think about him this way? If so, then Han Guangjun is so unfortunately misunderstood. He's obviously like this towards everyone. You should be glad you didn't study at the Yunzhong sect, sect leader Su. Zǔ Shī's voice was cold, why? Wei Wuxian, or else you would have long since been angered to death by me. When I was young, every day I wholeheartedly believed that I was a prodigy, that I was such a fucking big deal. And not only did I believe it in my heart, I even flaunted it everywhere. Veins lined Zǔ Shī's forehead, shut up. He seemed as if was about to strike when Lan Wangji pulled Wei Wuxian towards his chest, firmly protecting him with his arms. Zǔ Shī's movements paused, debating whether or not he should attack. Wei Wuxian immediately peeked from behind Lan Wangji's back, it's best if you don't do anything, sect leader Su. Yan Fengzan is still fairly respectful towards Zi Wujun. If you hurt Han Guangjun, do you think Yan Fengzan would be happy? This was also the reason why Zǔ Shī stopped. But now that Wei Wuxian said it, he felt abnormally annoyed. He mocked again out of defiance, I never imagined that the Yiling patriarch, who legendarily strikes fear in both the living and the dead, would be scared of death himself. Wei Wuxian responded shamelessly, you really flatter me. But, it's not that I'm scared of death. I just don't want to die yet. Zǔ Shī sneered, mincing words. Hilarious. Is there any difference between being scared of death and not wanting to die? Wei Wuxian snuggled against Lan Wangji's chest, of course there is. For example, right now, I don't want to get up from Lanzan versus I'm scared of getting up from Lanzan, could they possibly be the same? After some thought, he continued, I'm sorry. I retract my words. I feel like they're pretty much exactly the same thing. Zǔ Shī's face was almost green. To anger him was Wei Wuxian's original intention, anyways. But suddenly, from above him came a light laugh. It was so extremely light that one would doubt they heard wrong. But Wei Wuxian immediately looked up. He very clearly saw beside Lan Wangji's lips the transient glimpse of a soft smile that resembled sunlight reflected over snow. This time, not only Zǔ Shī, even Lan Ziqin and Jinling paused in astonishment. Everyone knew that Han Guangjun was always cold and never smiled, almost unlively. Only few had seen what he looked like when he smiled, even if it was just a slight curl of his lips. Nobody expected to see his smile under such circumstances. Wei Wuxian's eyes were immediately opened wide and round. A moment later, he gulped. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, Lanzan, you. Right then, knocking sounds again came from outside the Guanyin temple. Zǔ Shī unsheathed his sword, holding it in his hands as he asked in alarm, who is it? Nobody answered. The doors shot open. From amidst the storm that had just broken inside, a crackling streak of purple lighting struck right against Zǔ Shī's chest, sending him flying backwards. Zǔ Shī slammed into one of the mahogany pillars, and immediately heaved a mouthful of blood. The two monks guarding the temple door were also affected by the echoes of the attack, thrown onto the ground and unable to get up. A purple figure stepped steadily over the threshold and into the main palace. The rain blew hard outside the temple, but the figure wasn't too wet. Only the violet at the hems of his clothes darkened slightly. He held a paper umbrella in his left hand. Raindrops crashed onto the umbrella, water splashing everywhere. The cold light of Zhidian continued to sizzle in his right hand. His face was darker than the stormy night. In Chapter